One. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hungry People Podcast, home of the hungry people. It is your boy, Michael Patrick Buckley, here with my co-host, AJ the Killer, Diveka. We have an awesome guest for you guys here today. He is known as Jeezy. He is the real Jeezy. He brings tons of energy. I met him on Instagram, similar to how I met AJ on Instagram. And it's been so cool to see Jeezy go through such an awesome transformation. And it's really cool to see what he's doing nowadays too. He has his own supplement company and whatnot. And it's just really cool to see you be such a cool guide and such an amazing and influential coach to a lot of people out there. And I just want to say that you are such an inspiration. It's been so great connecting with you online. And it's awesome, dude. So welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to be here with you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. It is an honor to spend some time with you, and it's also a mission to share the message, man. I feel like I know there's this whole thing about religion, but I feel like I got some good news. I mean, I hate to put it like that, but I feel like I got some good news.
Yes, you do.
In the world, man. And so I'm just sharing it as much as possible, as loud as possible.
Definitely, dude.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It's good to be here, guys. And Jeezy, it's nice to meet you. I actually don't know a thing about you, so it's going to be really good for the people listening who also don't know anything. So why don't you take us from the beginning for what you feel is, relevant in your story?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, anybody, even if you've never met me, you'll be able to agree that that anybody who comes to like a certain level of energy or a certain level of positivity has been through a certain amount of pain, and maybe even a certain amount of trauma. And speaking of the beginning, my life began steeped in health issues. Like I was born premature. When I was born, I'll just share with you guys, my right thumb was attached to the inside of my left ankle.
Oh, wow.
And my left pinky was attached to the inside of my right ankle, and my limbs were fused together. So I was born 2 months premature, onto the operating table, and just a host of health issues just from birth. And then, fast forward to 7 years later, I'm getting hospitalized for asthma. And that there's this whole thing with self-image of growing up with asthma, feeling like you're never good enough. You're never picked first on the sports teams. Not exactly, you know what I mean? And then not only that, I'm short. So it's like, growing up was rough. I was kind of like mad at God. I felt like God shorted me. He made me short, and he gave me birth defects. So I had this chip on my shoulder.
Right.
This chip on my shoulder caused me to I found what I ended up emotionally eating and getting heavier, because if I wasn't going to grow taller, I can get wider and I could get stronger. And I became a bully. I grew up getting bullied for being short, and then I ended up becoming a bully. Fast forward another 10 years, I ended up in prison by the age of 18 for possession of stolen firearms and selling illegal drugs. So this whole beginning of starting off with health issues made me grow up kind of mad. Mm-hmm. I grew up fighting. I ended up in prison by 18, but it was in prison that, over there in prison, exercise isn't kind of like an option. It's kind of a culture. And so it's an assumed thing. It's like, we don't have weapons in here, not really. So we have to protect ourselves the best way we can. That's why working out is not like an option. It is kind of like they call it mando. So they say it's mandatory. And so the culture in prison got me to really treat working out seriously. But then once I started getting results, I started realizing I feel better when I look better, and I look better and I feel better. And then it started off on this positive spiral that started in the depths of prison, that I started doing real push-ups and pull-ups and started seeing striations and definition. And I was like, I feel better about myself.
Right.
And that started this thing where I realized that your body, you can use exercise as a vehicle to uplift all other parts of your life. And that was kind of the beginning, was fitness. By the time I got out of prison, I was helping people lose weight and balance out all those push-ups with some pull-ups, balance out that upper body with some squats. I was like speaking sensible to people. By the time I got out of prison, with all that upper body, man, do some squats,
How long were you in there for?
2 years, from 18 to 20.
Wow.
And it was the best
you
thing that
sweet?
ever happened to me. Now was the best thing that ever happened to me because
Right.
it changed my trajectory. It got me on this health path. And I don't know where I would be if I didn't end up in prison. So now people who don't know me kind of have a key into why it's hard to bring down my energy. Every time I wake up, I'm not locked up. I'm free
No.
to go outside. You know, I have the ability to go outside and get some fresh air. And that kind of rock bottom sets it up to where it's like, yo, I'm happy every day now.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So when you were in prison, like, take us through some of your workouts you were doing, like, because I do know that like the prison workouts all are about like push-ups and pull-ups, and that's like what I love doing. So I would love to hear, just like give me like a sample day of what you guys would do.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for such an interesting question, because the ingenuity that you run into in prison is astounding.
I bet.
I mean, let's just keep it to fitness, but like we were doing like we were holding water bags on each other's backs, doing weighted push-ups. You know, we were doing bear hugs with, you know, those construction buckets. Like you could find those, you can get your hands on one of those construction buckets, fill them with rocks, dude, rocks. 100-pound bucket bear hug squats.
Oh my God.
Yes. Some of these people have been in prison for 10 years. So you got to think, man, they are going to come up with this. One guy sewed up a pair of pants into a bag that you could put rocks in.
Oh.
Okay. And so you work out with them and they're holding a bag of rocks on your back, and you could do push-ups and you take turns, right? I mean, they have the old school way of going back to back. So you got one guy on your back and he's crossing his arms and you're balancing. But then, you know, they have the new school way with water bags and rocks and stuff.
Right.
So, you know, obviously they have some kind of organization. So it's like Mondays, chest day, like Wednesdays is pull-up day. And then, you know, and then they work legs. So it's like they have the splits. They have the split down. You know, you can't just do push-ups every day.
Yeah.
You're not going to grow. You're going to hit plateaus, right? So yeah, so basically Monday, Wednesday, Friday training, Tuesday, Thursday is resting, and they eat a lot on rest days. Like in prison, you can have like boxes of food storage.
Mhm.
So people have lots of like cup of noodles, like just stocked up. And so they would load up on what's called spreads. A spread is like cup of noodles, bags of chips, cut up sausages, all in the bag with hot water, let it cook, and then boom, it's like a bowl of just the ultimate munchie food. Like,
well, isn't it amazing the creativity that comes out of necessity? So many people are just dormant creativity, passion, all this stuff, because they're never kind of forced to tap into that. And it feels it sounds as though you kind of experienced that as well.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it right there. Is like when you remove the distractions, human ingenuity really shines. Like when you take away our options and say like, okay, you have to work with this. Like I literally got like the best tattoos of my life from tattoo guns made out of a CD player and guitar string, and you attach the guitar string to a CD player motor, and it goes, and then, you know, like they basically built a tattoo gun out of those things. Wow. And yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Like yeah, human ingenuity, man. I have a new respect for just mankind from what I saw in prison.
Right.
Like,
well, I think it's like everyone is so uncomfortable that they seek the comfort, but then they get trapped in the comfort because as soon as they step outside of it, they have like a sore spot for anything that doesn't feel right. Does that make sense? And then as soon as you're forced out into the world and you have to ebb and flow with it, you actually grow. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is not even half as bad as I thought.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that last sentence is true on all accounts. When I went to prison and I realized how bad it wasn't, I was like, yo, what else are they lying about? Because that experience as an 18-year-old who kind of had a good head on my shoulders, but I wasn't like awake yet, right? But to see that prison is nothing like what they tell us in music and movies was so eye-opening. I was like, yo, this is nothing but a profit-generating system taking advantage of the ignorance of the poor people, like in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You know, because
I've experienced it. Yeah. Not prison myself, but just seen it, witnessed it in my own life, how they handle it. It's insane.
Yeah, and then I learned further about the music industry and how the hip hop music industry in cahoots with the prison industry, and then you learn about all that stuff, and you realize, yo, I got brainwashed into following certain artists and certain idols and doing behaviors that they were doing that I normally wouldn't have done, but just to fill up a prison that was meant to do there. That was the exact purpose, like to brainwash kids to breaking the law to fill prison beds so they could extract money from our families. You know, so that was like my first like foray into like real health and real truth is like when I went into prison, dude, and I cured my asthma by just putting down the milk and cardio, put down the dairy, do some cardio, my asthma went away. After that, I got pissed because I was like, not only are they lying about the whole prison system, but now they're lying about dairy. I found out the truth about dairy.
Well, that's why the normal consumer doesn't stand a chance, because it takes more of a rare individual or a rare experience to break you free of that mindset. And unfortunately, 95% of people are in that, and they think that what they're doing is in their own best interest. Drink dairy for strong bones. And how many people are having lung issues and breathing issues and constipation issues and dietary cancers and these things. And they don't know any better, which is what's so scary, because even though we're woke to nutrition, think about all the things that we've been limited to in other areas of life. Things we're not even aware of, like you saying the prison thing. Half of that I had no clue about. The fact that you could store food, the fact that all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What else don't we know? It's kind of scary.
Yeah, exactly. That is the, and there's this term called Zetetics, which means to be erring on the side of a questioning nature. Like you can even approach astronomy from this Zetetic approach, meaning rather erring towards question. So that question right there, what else don't we know? That's a better way to figure out what's going on than trying to just assume that it's like this and then assume that it's like that and assume that it's like that.
That's why I can't stand the polarizing effect that everyone has nowadays, whether it's diet or the politics of things. You can't discuss things anymore, because as soon as you ask a question in a way that seems like you're on one side, you're labeled as a devil.
And the only way out, and I'm steeped in the middle of this conversation, just to say I live with a carnivore. He's my brother. We share bathrooms. Some people think that if you are in the same house as a carnivore, there's going to be like just viruses just all in the air. Just it's
right.
Dude, like I had to ground everybody back into the truth. It's like, okay, you can pick this label and that label, but my brother who lives in the next room is that. What do you want me to do? Like hate on your brother? Like get together at Thanksgiving, or what the heck? Like it's just at the end of the day, I mean, it's a preference. Yes, it's corporate farming's fucked up. Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that corporate farming's fucked up. It's like hell on earth. All right, but beyond that, dude, it's a preference, and so it's kind of comical that we would let ourselves get divided off a food preference. Because then, if we let ourselves get divided on food preference, what won't they be able to divide us based on?
Yeah.
Now that they got us by this stuff, it's kind of funny,
Yeah. I mean, we're already being divided by race. Now we have sex. All our, religion, we're already being divided in that way. And this is just another option. This is just another one that's coming on. We can't let that get to us,
No.
And I want to say you had an awesome post on Instagram the other day, the picture of the raw milk and how you talked about how like your brother healed his eczema and other stuff that he was dealing with. And it's just so cool to actually see someone care like that. And just because we feel the same way as you, and we don't want to be people who are just like only friends with vegans, because that's like, we can't live a life like that. And we'll say it all the time, like our really good friends from back home, they're like, no one's vegan,
Yeah, exactly.
So what are we gonna like? What am I just gonna hate my best friend because he eats a certain way? Like we can't divide ourselves like that.
No, especially because especially when it comes to the carnivore thing, because that's healing people.
Yeah.
Like that stuff, whatever you want to say about it, there's people that are healing from it. So why can't we get on the fact that like we have more in common than differences? Like we're both trying to help heal people with raw foods.
And here's the thing, the people that go back to carnivore, it's not like they wanted to. If they were vegan, they probably tried really hard to feel better, and they weren't feeling better, right? And I feel as though that's the big thing that I want to push across. Like, people want to feel good, and they're not necessarily looking to change, but if they're not getting the results they want, what else are they supposed to do?
We have to be okay. Like, and this is part of the maturation process of our movement, is we have to be okay that not everybody is going to be on our side of this debate, this thing.
It's a rotating door. Like, 100%.
Like, we have to be okay with that. We have to, like, because I know, like, when you first realize and you first uncover these truths, you're like, hey, everybody get on this wave. We found some shit out, man.
Right.
You guys, we got the good news. Right? I got the good news, brother Bible. I got the good news. And, like, you realize that no matter how good the news is, there's some people that are still just going to choose what they choose. And you know what?
Right.
That's okay. There's enough room on this abundant plane, on this abundant earth, for all of us to proliferate with whatever choices we make, you know?
Right. Yeah. Not only that, they might have, your good news might not be their good news. Like, if I didn't feel good first doing it, I wouldn't have stuck with it. Right. But then once I felt better, it was like, man, every single person is going to feel this way. That's what I thought. But obviously that's not the case.
Yeah, some people like, and it's okay, you know, it's okay that some people it's not for them. That doesn't make them like a bad person.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Over that, like that's crazy.
Well, who is it? What's the guy? His Peterson, his daughter. She can only, I think she has some like crazy autoimmune disease, and she can like only eat beef or something like that. And
Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela, she had an autoimmune disease that would attack her joints, and by the time she was like 5, like, her knees were like destroyed. I think she has knee replacement as like a child, and it sounded like awful. But then finally they tried monos of different things, even fruits, I heard, and then all of a sudden she did just meat, and it was the first time where she was sleeping through the night, and her body wasn't hurting. I mean, it just sounds awful. Imagine like a little child that's yours, and you're trying to like protect her, and it's failing, and then you find something that she does that actually makes her feel better. All your ideals go out the fucking window.
Yeah, it's your daughter. That's your daughter. So yeah, like,
and she is like beautiful. She's got like a huge following. I don't really know much about her. My brother's more of a Jordan Peterson guy, but it seems as though she's doing pretty well. I don't know if she still lives that way, but I feel as though there's times for that to, like, it gets people to the other side where they can start to live and take care of themselves and have some kind of momentum going. Not that they have to stay in that realm.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so we can even take from traditional Chinese medicine. I mean, there is direct truth that, for example, eating heart will help your heart disease.
Right.
And eating lungs will help lung disease. Like, they have direct thousands of years of evidence to show that, like, eating animal organs strengthens your organ. I mean, and it kind of makes natural sense. It's just that, again, to break it down to nuance, because when you speak about the nuance, it eliminates all of the choosing sides and being on this team. So the nuance is, like, to know the difference between what can be, like, it's powerful that you can eat beef lung and heal your lungs, and to know where we have come to as a society. Like, we're not eating beef lungs to heal our lungs. We're not eating stomachs to heal our stomachs.
Yeah.
We're just eating. Like, we're just like, I think we can all agree that even if you're not quitting a food group, we don't have to all quit food groups. Some people don't like even thinking about quitting food groups, right?
Right.
But we can all be a little more conscious of what we're eating, because the meat that you're eating has the power to heal disease, and that these organs have the power. So are you doing it with respect to that power, or is it just a breakfast, lunch, and dinner Monday through Friday thing? And knowing that difference, you can get a lot of healing without quitting food groups, but just paying respect to that right there.
Yeah, and we can also pay attention to the fact that there is still negatives that come with things that are positive, right? So, like, there's always a downside, and I feel as though people only want to act like raw veganism is good or meat is good, and it's like there's clearly downsides to both of those. There's clearly downsides to being vegan, there's downsides to being a runner, there's downsides to owning a business, but everyone wants to pretend in the diet world that it's one way or the other, and it's so gray. I mean, it's so black and white, and I just cannot see it that way anymore.
I love it. And you know, what you speak on highlights kind of the social media culture, right? Because you're right, man. And as somebody who's experiencing it, you guys said I have a supplement company. I've been able to experience the downsides of having a thriving internet niche. I'm talking about like, I'm tired on a level that one night of sleep, 1 week of sleep ain't even gonna fix this tired that I'm feeling. Like I want to give some of it back to get back some of my energy I had before this business took off, right? And so the idea that everything has downsides, I've been able to leverage the fact that I'm showing some of my downsides on this social media. Like I'm showing some of my losses,
you do.
And it's refreshing for people, you know, and
it's almost like so rare, and at the same time people are only doing it now. The people you do see doing it are just doing it to be more relatable, not because they always felt that comfortable. But I feel as though like the three of us, it's just how we've always kind of taken it. Like we've always wanted that. We've always wanted to at least be as real as possible without, you know, being too ridiculous with it, right?
Yeah. I have felt ridiculous. Like when I just had like an Instagram fitness profile and it was just ab shots and leg shots, calf shots, abs and calves. Like I just had my target areas, right? You got 2 areas that are highly developed on your body, right? You got everything else is shit, but I got nice calves, nice abs. Nice. So I develop a following off my shots, right? And then you feel like crap because you're like, okay, I didn't even really work for these. I had naturally had big calves from being short, and I ended up deleting the page because I didn't feel like I was being real. Like I wasn't showing the fact that my bench press was 100 pounds. Like I wasn't showing none of the real stuff, you know.
Right.
And so now it feels much more balanced. And to rewind a little bit and to go back to what you were saying about good things and bad things about all the diets, like it's not necessarily bad, but it's not fun, is the idea of detoxing. I mean, detox gets such a positive shining like view, like and it's messing up people's expectations of how it's going to go, right? Because when you have like this model that's been detoxing for 10 years, but then she's just showing all the goods and not showing like how much struggle it took to get there, like detoxing can feel like dying. It can look like dying. You can have hair falling out from the type of like fasting and detox that it can bring about. And so understanding the nuance that everybody is at a different place and everybody is ready for a different level of that very detox, because you know, some people are like, for example, on their deathbed and they have no choice. They have to go hard. Their organs are going to fail if they keep plugging them up with more BS, you know. But some people like me, and I'm very honest and open about it, like the reason I struggle with like fasting and detox and all those things is because I'm healthy AF. Like I'm at the healthiest I've ever been. And I have like an income stream that makes me want to eat. So it's like, yo, like I'm in a different place. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. And I don't need to live fasting right now.
Yeah, right.
Some people do, you know?
So kind of like from what I was getting at there is that like, because you have more money coming in, were you like buying more like better food products from the store, you know, whereas to like, if you didn't have the money coming in, you were fasting? Is that kind of like,
this is important. And I talk about this point a lot about how much healthier I was when I didn't have money, because the only thing to do is fast. I only got $30. We getting by on apples and orange juice, right? It's like, and we gonna do breath work to fill in the rest, right? So like, and my energy was like, boom, I was golden, and I'm like shining. I got the prana intake, qigong, because I can't even afford to. And so let's flip it on its head. So now I'm so busy that I don't have any free time, and I have so much money coming in. It's like a lot to me, right? That I can smoke as much as I want. I can eat whatever I want. And so now there's this whole justification that I lived my whole adolescence not being able to afford stuff, being told that I was poor, being bad with money. And then all of a sudden I've created this income stream for myself that's challenging the stories I've told myself. And so I've been through this journey in the last 2 years where I get so busy and stressed that I end up emotionally eating and spending all the money I just made. But at the end, I end up tired and broke. And it's like, what did I just do all this work for? Like, I just did all this work to give all that I can to this audience. And I made all this money, but I was so stressed that I smoked it all and I ate it all. Like,
right.
So
I'm
now,
actually,
yeah. So now
I'm
like,
actually,
go ahead.
I'm actually curious if you have any insights or tips. Like, are you're still in this place, or do you have advice for people who experience this? Because I agree, when you're kind of limited, it goes back to like you being in prison. When you're limited, all of a sudden you get creative, you get motivated, you get diligent, right? But then all of a sudden we're back in the world and we have all these options. You kind of freeze up. It's like going on fucking Netflix. You have 10,000 options. It makes it more annoying. But if you had like a DVD because you have nothing else, it's like, oh, I'll just watch this fucking DVD because I need something to do, right?
Yeah.
So I feel as though like the food is like a similar thing. Do you have any advice for people who do have everything at their fingertips? They have all the options in the world, and it's almost detrimental because now they can go eat at any restaurant. They could drink any fucking beer, vodka, or whatever.
Yeah. And it's exactly what I'm going through right now. And what it comes down to is your reasoning for why you're doing it has to grow. It has to mature. It has to change, because in the beginning, when I didn't have options, I was fasting and doing all this stuff because in my head, I was like, I'm doing this because people who do this as a job do this stuff. I'm doing it to look like this so you'll believe me and I can be an influencer in your mind, because I want to be a health influencer. So I'm fasting and stuff, right? It's all external. It's all ego based in the beginning because I'm concerned with how I look to you, right? Yeah. And now that I'm actually here, I'm actually saving lives, actually selling products, actually making money. I don't care how I look like to you. It really doesn't matter what anybody thinks of me at this point, because I'm so busy serving. What I look like has nothing. I don't care what you think of me. You have no idea how many people I'm helping and how many people I'm saving. So now my reason for fasting, reason for training, reason for working out, it has to grow up. It has to be because I deserve it. Mm-hmm. It's like, because I got the money now. Now I got the money. It's like, okay, so what else do you want? You got all this stupid stuff you don't need. I got 5 one-wheels. It's like, okay, but what do you deserve? Like, and I started to ask myself that, because having gone through a lot of money and it comes and goes, it's like, I'm not any happier that I went through $100,000 in the last year than I was before. I was actually happier when I had less going on and more breath work and more free time, right? So I had to ask myself the question, like, okay, but what do you want beyond money? And the truth and the answer to that question is, I already had it before I started all this shit. I was the hero. I was working out. I had the body. I felt good in my body. And I realized that all this extra money stuff is not what I really wanted. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be an influencer. I wanted to be established as somebody that helps people, but I was already doing that from the beginning. I had what I wanted. And after all this stuff, I'm just reconnecting to that. So to put a pretty bow on that, what I'm doing to anchor me back into my practice is I'm anchoring myself back in with the powerlifting. Like, I put down powerlifting when this business took off. And I said, all right, I don't need to hurt my joints anymore because I got money coming in. Hey, what's the point of like harming my joints? I was doing that to get personal training money, right? And now I'm back to powerlifting, but it's because I look at it as an anchor that can keep me solid with a routine and mentally clear. Like, when you have to keep yourself clear enough to lift a lot of weight, you also have to be clear enough to do all this other stuff too. You know, like if I have to keep my yoga up, I have to keep my eating healthy. I can't eat shitty food and perform good. So now I respect working out as something that helps me mentally, so I can keep helping people with the business. So
I feel like this is a tricky subject because I'm sure there's like all the rich people would almost agree, like the money's not making you happy. You know, you don't want to take things for granted. But I do feel as though there's a lot of people who are almost worse off, especially in the spiritual, community, who think like having nothing is the best way. And it's like, they almost don't take care of themselves in the same way where someone like you, we said in the beginning, when you started to work out, if you started to dress better, if you got a decent haircut, if you went to the dentist once in a while, I feel as though the actual responsible, mature thing is when we finally like get into the middle of both of those, the bell curve of that. And like, because I think I've been in the scene maybe like 8 years or so. You see it all the time. You see like people like almost shaming other people for wanting stuff and having things and like going after it, having an ambition and a dream. You know, this podcast is an ambition and dream of MP and I's. And it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of money. And I feel as though that we can't lose sight on what's important for sure. But it's also like, I want people to also entertain, like, it's still great to have that as well. Cause for you, it sounds as though the powerlifting is what the podcast is for me.
Mhm.
It keeps me grounded and not just veering off and going 180, into these bad habits and these bad routines. And it keeps me accountable because I have MP and we're growing this. And for people who are almost so aimless and they're very spiritual, I'm not trying to talk bad about them, but they kind of don't have anything. And then at some point when they find something and they have that option again, I feel as though they come back to life a little bit.
Mhm.
And it's the same on the other side where people are just so caught up and so busy that finally when they cut everything out, they feel at peace. And I feel as though the middle is where I'm personally coming to with all of this stuff.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's actually been a blessing to now have been on both sides of this, because for so long I've been on the side of like, well, I don't need money, man. I've been fine without it. Never had it, been fine without it, don't need it, man. We're good. And you even start to tell yourself stories and convince yourself that you don't want it. And this leads to self-sabotage, to where when you get it, you get rid of it so you could be back to being comfortable. Like I've been through that and having to go through the journey of like, well, pay yourself first before you pay everybody else. You got to pay you. You're working hard for that. You gotta pay you, and then take care of your suppliers and bills and all that. Like I've gone through that, and so for someone who's in that spiritual conundrum, let's say, it's powerful to look at money as energy in the same way that you would look at energy cultivation, in the same way that you would look at qigong and you want to store your energy in the dantian and the solar plexus chakra. Like, if you start to look at money as something that it's not something that you have and you lose, but something that's flowing and something that you can participate in or not participate in, and something that you can become involved in the exchange of or not become involved in the exchange of, this kind of opens up what it means to buy or sell. Because some people have this thing with selling. They think that if they're selling out. I've been there. I thought if I was selling, I'm selling out. Like,
I love sales. Yeah.
All of this information is truly free. So a spiritual person with the information runs into a conundrum. Well, if it's truly free, if the body heals itself, what are you doing selling anything? And so I had to grow up into this realization that selling is actually serving. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I'm not serving until I'm selling, because some of these people, they take my free information, but it only means so much to them. It goes one in ear, out the other. But once you make a purchase from me, and now you got my name in a box in your hand, and you experience it. And not only that, the stuff I'm selling makes you feel really good. So it's like, I'm not just selling like some bookmarks or some pens and stuff.
And there's a relationship there too that starts to build. This
energy exchange, right? And what it does is it makes it real. Like, you guys want to connect to your audience, dude, exchange in the physical, and what it has done is it's started to raise this audience of super supporters. I feel like these people would literally come fly out to me if I was in physical trouble. Like, and in the last few years, I've literally taken the train to meet up and visit people all over the US. And so
I love to hear that.
That's so cool.
It's making it real, so now I have this whole other perspective of selling products and meeting people and charging what I'm worth. Like that's all part of it, because the thing is, everybody wins when you charge what you're worth.
Yeah.
Everybody, both parties win.
Yeah.
When they pay and they invest, now they're invested. So yeah. I've always been in sales. When I was 13, I had a job selling the Sacramento Bee newspaper, right? And I had this spiel. I'd knock on the door and then tell them this spiel about I'm working for a college scholarship. The scholarship was like $500 check from the boss, but and they taught us, dude. They taught us, man, to hear 10 no's before you give up. Like, they're like, did they say no 10 times in 10 different ways? Mm-hmm. Then don't give up.
Yeah.
Right. So they taught us, like, for whatever excuse we had we had like a comeback, like, and the comebacks were funny. At one point it was like, Well, if they say they don't need it, we're like, did you know you can use the newspaper to wash your windows? It's really good at washing your windows. Like if you just put water, you can wash your windows. And so to be able to apply that kind of same energy and attitude to my products and my brand is like full circle, you know.
I want to go back to your business and get more into details about that, but I also want to step back a little more and get into the detox stuff, because MP and I have been very vocal on our stances on detox. A lot of the problems you were saying, you know, there's going to be a lot of people who have to go through it, who really, like, people try to glamorize it, and I feel as though people are almost lying on how they're seeing progress, because then you'll see them a few years later talk about how they actually just felt horrible the whole time. They didn't really make any progress. If anything, they kind of deteriorated or didn't feel as well. How do you see detox, and how would you go about, whether for yourself or someone you're working with, how do you do it in a way where actually seeing results, not you're just losing health and calling it detox?
Yeah, sure. So for me, my stance is that the body is always detoxing. Like the body is always detoxing at all times. It is up to us to become familiar with the spectrum of the various ways and things that speed up or slow down detox. And so I operate on like the idea of the pranic spectrum, where we have the highest healing is the sunlight in the air, and then the lowest would be like a steak. All right. And then from the steak to the air, you have different levels of what you're getting out of it, what frequency that substance has, right? But then there's this other thing that should give people pause before jumping onto that spectrum, because, oh, the sunlight's the best, so I'm hanging out up here in heaven, you know. It's like there's this thing called the law of vital adjustment. And so Hilton Hotema is the person who popularized the idea of breatharianism. And what he laid out was that the law of vital adjustment dictates that the human body creates an environment and a home out of whatever you're intaking at any given time. And he illustrated that through millennia and through years and years, we've got stepped down from that pranic state, or that state where we didn't age, to where we are now. And so most people who discover this information skip over that, and they're just like, well, vital adjustment, whatever, I'm going to the sunlight, I'm breatharian, right? Like, no, what Hilton Hotema said was that the way we are addicted to cooked food is akin to a morphine addict who is addicted to morphine, where if you pull it away, they could die. So given that an understanding of our addiction to cooked food as that of someone who's addicted to morphine, it makes sense to go a little bit slower up this pranic ladder. Now, my perspective is that we need to take generations to move up the pranic ladder, maybe a generation of whole foods plant-based, then a generation or two of fruitarian, and then a generation or two or three of liquidarian, right? And what do we see on the internet? We see people reading a book and then they're liquidarian next week, right? It's like, the reason why there's a disconnect is because people are not recognizing the actual mechanics of evolution, in that we program our DNA with our behaviors from day to day, but there is a lag. There's like a 7-year lag from when we start a new diet to where our DNA is actually reprogrammed. So there's other people in our community who've been breatharian for 1 year, and they're like, I'm a breatharian now. And then they go back to the carnivore, and they're like, I'm a carnivore now. And nowhere in there did they give their body 7 years to adjust to a new type of lifestyle. So the main thing, just to kind of gift wrap this for you, is the main thing I would be concerned with is educating people to realize and learn where they are at on this spectrum, because knowing what you're adjusted to and where you're at is more powerful than knowing what could be and knowing what was. Like, oh, we were breatharians, oh, we were carnivores, our ancestors were carnivores, where our bigger ancestors were breatharians. Well, farther than that, we probably just ate people. I don't know what our ancestors were, man. But the more important thing is to know where you are now. And I believe that, yes, it is possible to progress and get your body adapted to lower and lower levels of density. But I also give respect to the law of vital adjustment, that while some people who were not as addicted to food growing up, maybe they were born raw vegan already, they might have more success transitioning to the lower levels of density than somebody who grew up on a Costco diet. Like I grew up on Costco Spam and rice and sriracha sauce. So it's not like I'm going to be able to get sensitive enough to just glean energy from sunlight only anytime soon. So yeah, super fascinating topic. And I think that it's common that, you know, most people just jump fast, but at the same time, I will measure that by saying I do have actual friends who are actually liquidarian, breatharian, and who go lengths of time on no consumption. And so I'm kind of, I see both and I'm like, yo, let's just measure and know where we're at rather than know what should be done, you know?
Yeah. Right. MP, did you want to go?
Yeah, I was gonna say something. I'm actually really happy you mentioned the law of vital adjustment, because I tell AJ this all the time, and AJ, Jeezy was the one who introduced me to the law of vital adjustment.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it just makes so much sense. You know, if you start smoking cigarettes and you do it for 2 months straight and you stop for a week, it's like, where's the cigarettes? You know, like what's going on? Same with the alcohol, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really happy that you brought that up, because I think it's such an interesting, I guess you could call it a theory, but I honestly do believe it to be true for most cases. But yeah, I think like what we see a lot in this community is people, they'll just like do everything all at one time, whereas taking it slow. And we actually just got off an interview. We just released it on Monday with Michael Perrine from Everyday Detox, and he's a colon hydrotherapist, really cool guy. He is actually, his Instagram account's name is Everyday Detox. So like he's all about like the cleansing lifestyle and whatnot. But he definitely sees that people run into these issues where they're doing like so much cleansing all at once, and it's just creating more issues. In his whole thought process too is that we don't really know, or we're misunderstanding the thought of detoxification and what those symptoms are, which is true. Even for myself, I probably would need him by my side every second to be like, hey, is this a detox symptom, or is this just me feeling like shit? You know, like what's the
yeah, or like, are you doing the wrong thing? Right.
Yeah, right. So I think what he's even said best is to like do periods of it over time instead of like just doing it all at once. It's more sustainable, you know. So I'm not sure if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I do. And there's another author with another book. His name is Arnold Ehret. He wrote a book called Rational Fasting. And his whole thing, because this craze happened 100 years ago. Like everybody was getting into detox 100 years ago. And Arnold Ehret had to come out with a book called Rational Fasting, because literally people fast until they die. It's like, yo, calm down with this whole trend. Y'all killing yourselves. And so what Arnold Ehret illustrated was that, like, yes, fasting has the power to heal. And he's like, yes, the body can operate on no food, but the toxicity levels of the average person to jump into a fast and to unload all of those toxins into your body at once can kill people, especially now with big pharma and what they're injecting us with and what they have running in our systems. So what he developed was a system of like fasting for short periods of time, going in and out of it. And then he developed a system of using food to step you into the fast and out of the fast. Like he had like, you know, ways to use salads and fruits to slowly get your digestive system used to no food, and then walking you out of the fast with like, you know, cooked fruits and even some salads. And so, yeah, and it's just a rational system. It's like, just because you find out that something is the best thing since sliced bread doesn't mean you just fast 24/7. Like you could do a control, like intermittent fasting, super powerful. The average person should just get into intermittent fasting just because it's good to give your body a break every day.
Do you feel as though with the back and forth of like short-term cleansing, reintroducing some food or then cooked food, doesn't that mess with the law of vital adjustment? I feel as though what I'm yearning for is consistency, but maybe over, you know, in the year, short periods of certain things. But I feel as though like when you're finally getting used to something, you're changing it up again. And I found that really kind of interesting and tricky.
Yeah. So you can go the fast way or the slow way. I mean, what I see for myself is not really going back and forth, like on the macro. So you have your micro cycles and your macro cycles, but I see myself over time, not going back and forth, but shedding density, like over years, like over decades, shedding density, like in the same way that I can confidently tell you that like I shed alcohol. So there's things that from my life that will get shed. And so one day I'll shed, you know, like cooked food. Like I definitely see that happening. I'm not saying that I'm going to go through the back and forth of promoting, hey, it's fully raw. And then next week I'm like, hey guys, I'm back in the shitter. But I do see myself over generations and over time lowering my density. But the thing is, just to give light to what you said, that may look like going back and forth. Right. What I view is, if you spread that out over time, it's not going to like damage your systems. And that's the thing. Right. Not recognizing that the body takes time to adjust is what's harming people. Like people making drastic changes in less than a year and then making another drastic change. Like give your body time to adapt to the changes that you're making, and then see how that feels. Use how your body feels as also as like a mechanism or a radar.
Well, it becomes even more tricky when people want to go hardcore because they feel so terrible, right? They feel like complete shit. So they're like going crazy on the green juice, they're using herbs, they're drinking, eating fruit and whatever. And then they have that crash and they go eat a bunch of garbage again because they're so like, whatever they stirred up, or their hormones are off, or they're starving, pick one of them or pick them all. But then they still feel so crap that they go back again. So that's more of the cycle. It seems as though you have a lot of control and you kind of know what you're doing and have a plan, but I'm sure you have to see it all the time where people really don't do that.
I definitely, I've definitely continue to go through what you're saying, but as you go through it, the intensity of the back and forth.
Yeah, I relate to that completely. I used to binge so hard. Yeah.
Right. You're going from green juice to In-N-Out. Like, if that's like, and over time, it's like, okay, quinoa to carrot juice. It's like, now quinoa is a cheat day. It's like over time, what you consider as going all out kind of gets like measured down into the middle, and what you consider as treating yourself how you want to be treated, it kind of turns into the same thing of like, now I'm going to treat myself with this fruit juice, so right. The thing is, everybody's going to go through that. And I would just, the only thing we can do as I observe people who are just going through this right now, like some people just found out that orange juice is healing. Like when you just find out about that, you want to just do nothing but orange juice, right? Yeah. But you know that this is going to lead to a crash, and then what? Guilt for going back to enjoy what you enjoyed, which is another thing, is like, when did we get so like guilty for eating what, like our generations of traditions of family line have been eating this thing, and now we feel guilty because we learned something? There has to be an aspect of accepting what you learned. Like this is what I've learned to eat until this point in my life. If I don't accept it and I keep going to war with it, and if I keep looking at it as shit, I'm just going to keep going on this pendulum swing.
Right.
So at some point you got to be able to embrace how you currently eat and move from there. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm eating the tortilla chips. All right, with the salsa, bring it on, but tomorrow we're going to do better. To be able to accept yourself is going to get you a lot farther than going to war, which is not what people do on the internet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like it multiplies it, makes it way more difficult.
Right.
Yes. I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, especially coming from like breatharian perspective. Now you'll hear too, people who say when you do a lot of fasting, it's pretty hard on the adrenals. And just from like what I'm aware of is that like the adrenal glands, they'll start releasing stress hormones to like kind of buffer you not bringing in any food, So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. They'll mention like cortisol and whatnot, adrenaline, they'll talk about. So when people do go sort of breatharian, like, do you believe that they're just kind of running off stress and that their body is stressed out because they don't have the food? Or do you think that, and because they feel so good because they're like, because of those stress hormones, like the stress hormones are so high, sometimes you actually can get a high off that, So do you think that has anything to do with this, or do you think it's just kind of like a mentality? I would love to get
no, I think it's very mechanical. The difference here is the key here is there is a big difference between fasting and practicing breath work in this in the way that breatharians and some of the people that I teach like practice it, and fasting and just waiting. Like if you're just fasting, you're just waiting for the clock to your next meal, or you're just like you're drinking water or something, it's going to stress out your system. But if you're doing breath work is literally the regulation of all of your hormones and all of your neurotransmitters. So if you're fasting and you're doing breath work, you're not going to be in that adrenalized state. In fact, the breath work exercises, which reduce your breaths per minute to less than 4 breaths per minute, you're physiologically putting your body in a state where the adrenal glands are relaxed. You're in the parasympathetic state. Most people fast, they're stressed out, and they associate fasting with something that's hard. And not only are they not doing breath work, but when they're fasting, they're in the sympathetic nervous system state. That is the state that releases the adrenaline and gets us stressed out. It's the fight or flight state. So the key here to success in fasting is to be able to keep yourself in the parasympathetic state where you're not releasing the adrenaline. When you're in the parasympathetic, you're releasing the serotonin, the happy hormones, the rest and relax, or the rest and digestion hormones. So that's the main difference is if you practice breath work and get good at these techniques before you fast and before you even try fasting, and then you go into the fast and you have these tools in place and you know about the bandhas and how to lock your body locks and how to move the chi up and down your body. I would say even adding qigong as an energetic practice. If you have this knowledge and then you fast, it's going to be a completely different experience than if you're just fasting and you're like, I got to get through this fast, 23 more hours.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
That's a huge difference.
It sounds very similar to how people will start eating a bunch of fruit, but they don't exercise, right? It's like now they have all this energy, but they don't use it. They're sitting around this blood sugar, just the fuel's not being burned.
Yeah.
Man, we have all the pieces in place, dude. So a little bit of fasting, a little bit of breath work, some fruit, and some training. Dude, I think we're all like hungry, happy people right there.
Yes, sir.
A little bit of fasting, some breath work, some strength training, some fruit, and let's go. This is the party, right?
Yeah.
And
so now, do you do breath work every day?
Yes. First of all, yes. And I got myself to the position because I teach it pretty often now.
Okay.
And so in order to keep up curriculum, in order to keep it fresh, I'm constantly learning. Like I'm taking qigong classes so I can bring those concepts into the breath work. But yeah, when I am at my best, I'm doing breath work 1 hour a morning, and then I'm doing sessions throughout the day. When I'm at my worst, I'm just smoking a bunch of weed. So again, we're fluctuating. I'm like my best self does that, and I'll be honest. Some days I just smoke the weed, but that honesty is important because not everybody is like the breatharian on the mountain every day.
Yeah.
And when I get my breath practice in, it's easier to stay on my diet, right? It's easier to stay on my content, creative. So yeah, I'm definitely a huge fan and a huge student of the breath work.
Nice, dude.
I do think that at some point soon we're going to start wrapping up just because I do have plans, but I do want to hear more about your business. What is your business? How did you get into it? What's going on there? It's interesting.
Yeah. So I was vlogging for years before I started selling. It was when the pandemic hit that I started having to leverage my knowledge to sell, to make money. And so I started selling supplements that I was taking for years and educating about, and I was trying to plead with people, like, go to this website, get this supplement. And people were like, I'm lazy. It's like, okay, fine. I'll get it. You buy it from me. And then that's when I realized the power of branding is like, people can get anything from me from anywhere, but they'd rather get it from me. And if I have to use that to get them to take this supplement, then God damn it, I will wield that power because I'm getting people healthy stuff. So Shilajit is like a mineral supplement that gives people energy. It's kind of an adaptogen. CMOS, super popular. It's like CMOS gets rid of mucus in the body. But the main thing I do is I educate, teach, and coach people with microdosing. Microdosing is like when you take a small dose of psilocybin, like 1/10 of the normal dose. So for most people, this is 100 milligrams to 300 milligrams in a capsule. I've done the due diligence of mixing the microdoses with different herbs for different reasons. Like psilocybin plus ashwagandha will lower your stress levels. Psilocybin plus shilajit will increase your energy. So I've basically filled up this whole pharmacopoeia of whatever problem you have. I have a mixture using the synergistic effects of psilocybin with herbs to microdose and then give you kind of you're completely sober when you're microdosing. You're completely awake and you're able to work, but it gives you this mind-body connection edged. So yeah. So, and it's been totally blowing up and because microdosing as a subject is gaining in popularity.
It's not illegal.
It is not legal. And so it's the same position that cannabis was in like 10 years ago, where it's being decriminalized. And here's the thing. It's the same blueprint that cannabis is in, where corporations got into cannabis way before it got legalized. Corporations started testing it, they started experimenting with it, right? And then they legalize it, and then corporations are already ready to go, right? So psilocybin, they're investing in it, they're investing in studies in it, they're doing major studies in all the universities, corporations are investing in it, but it's still not legal, but it's being decriminalized in all the major cities. So for me, as somebody who can see the writing on the wall, I'm just like, well, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to establish networks, clientele, all this stuff. So when it does legalize, I'm going to have this whole storefront ready to go legit.
I love that. That's genius. Just creating that rapport. It sounds like you are a master of creating rapport, which is like half the battle.
Thank you. That's you just said it in a nutshell. So all this talking that I'm doing, I'm really good at talking, and this constant exchange of speaking is creating relationships that people just feel like I'm their best friend, because I just have this habit of turning on the camera every day and talking. So
yeah. Well, I just remember, I'm not sure if you still do it, because like sometimes I try to like, sometimes Instagram's too much, so I'm like, I gotta like push it aside. But dude, I think there was like a time period where you were on IG Live like every day, in your room, like what are they called? The good smelling scents. I forget, but I think what
sage.
Yeah, I think it was whatever you do. You like put all around your room, and you be in there like playing music and stuff, like getting ready. Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm getting ready for the live. Let's go. We're diving deep today. And you have a lot of really cool content on YouTube. I remember listening to some of your content. So it's definitely it's cool to see.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a beautiful thing. I didn't know what I was doing while I was, like I said, I stumbled into this. Like I just felt like this need to give. And I felt like I had a lot that was interesting to say. Mm-hmm. And now it went from me pushing something, right, to now being pulled. Like I feel like I'm getting pulled against my will. Even sometimes I'm tired, but there's so much going on now.
Well, you're large enough that you're creating your own gravity.
Yeah, pretty much what's going on. Like I'm starting to attract opportunities and experiences I couldn't even imagine. So now, honestly, I want everybody in our niche to create the same thing. Like we all deserve to be too busy that we can't handle, because of the stuff we're pushing is really saving lives,
Yeah. I have a selfish question. So MP and I, we're about to hit a year with Hungry People. And I feel as though early in the podcast, we talked about the depth, like you said, people who care about you really care about you. You have your super fans or however you put it, people who really ride with you. So I feel as though like that's one of the reasons MP and I were trying to not like necessarily go super wide, like it, blow up necessarily, but we really want to go deep with the people who give a shit and back us, because we want to create that like a little bit of culture around eating well, eating enough, being fit, these types of things. Now you have been experienced a lot of success, especially it sounds like over this last year. Do you have any advice for us in how to kind of go about this in a way that's not only sustainable, but we want to impact people in a meaningful way. We want people to feel as though and know that we actually give a shit about the quality of their life and what they put into their mind and their body. And do you have anything to say about that?
Oh, there's a lot to say, as always. So the first thing I would say, there's like a simple answer and a complex one, but the first thing I would say is to keep pulling on the thread of how can I help these same people more? Like, because for me, I thought I was just going to sell one product to 1 million people. I was like, I'm going to blow up by selling this one product to everybody in the world, right? But then what actually happened was I have a core group of 200 to 400 people that will buy whatever the fuck I put online. Like they trust that I wouldn't sell it if it wasn't going to help their lives. So now when I put it on the shelf, those people, like they will take care of me in that sense. So, and that came out of a result of asking, okay, but how else can I help? Okay, but how else can I help? Okay, how can I help deeper? How can I help more? Not who else, but the same people more. And that led to this depth of people that are like diehard, like they're with me, right?
Yeah,
and so
I'm getting chills. I agree.
Yeah, man. Right. So the second more complex answer is there's this thing called human design, and I don't know if you've ever heard of human design, but it's like this new form of astrology that combines all of the astrology cultures in the world into one system. This dude that made it up literally downloaded it. He said he got it from an alien, but the reason I'm even bringing it up is because of how accurate it is. It is deadly accurate. So it combines the I Ching, horoscopes, Vedic, and sidereal, like all into one system. And I've been getting human design readings on myself. And when you do that, when you get human design readings, it teaches you how you operate, literally what chakras are on, what chakras are open, what chakras are closed. And so it taught me my strategy. And my strategy is not to initiate. And everybody, all of our strategies are different. Some people is to initiate, right? So my personal strategy is do not initiate, ask questions, and wait for the response. And I've been following that strategy with my Instagram business, and it has been blowing up. So when you guys see me type on my story, well, what product should I get? What do you guys think about this? And whatever answers I get, when I get like a list of answers or a list of suggestions and I look through, my gut tells me which one to go with instantly. So I have this strategy that includes not initiating, but asking questions. And then I have this thing called sacral authority, which is that when my gut feels it, it knows. So I've always had this intuition, this connection with my intuition, that when I ask a question and then people respond, I know which one to. So I've been using my human design to run this business, and it's been just blowing up. So I highly recommend finding out what your human design is. You just need your date of birth and what city you're in, and get a reading from somebody, because it is some eye-opening stuff that will kind of give you the keys to what works best for you. Like, it's just crazy.
That's so cool.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, cool.
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
Yeah, hey, actually, I just have one more question.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to start wrapping up here, it's just about sleep and whatnot. I know this is different off topic of the business stuff, but like what are your thoughts on sleep? And like, do you think that humans should be getting like 7-8 hours, or do you think that like 4 is enough? I personally just feel that like it almost makes sense that like the more you're doing and the more you're working, the more your body should be resting. So like we should need more sleep. But I feel like the people who are doing so much and working so much are getting less sleep, you know?
That is the chronic stress nervous system thing.
Yeah.
Our culture is steeped in the whole chronic nervous system where you can't fall asleep and then you get away with 3 hours or 4 hours. That's
right.
That's unhealthy. And let's talk about the whole spectrum of it, because there are breatharians out here that are talking about not sleeping, right? So
exactly.
The key is understanding what is happening during the sleep. So people that are consuming less, doing less, if you just meditate on a mountain and you don't eat and you don't work, you're not going to need as much recuperation and sleep.
Right.
But our cities, and just being in a city, just being with this air, just being around this water, we need a certain amount of recuperation, just being in this city. So, and you'll be able to test this. People out there can test this, that the more you're eating, the more sleep you'll need. And the less you're eating, the less sleep you'll find. You'll just naturally find yourself needing not 8, like you'll be good on 6 if you're not eating as much. And so it's just
or it will be deeper sleep. Like maybe you're getting the same amount, but you feel more rested.
Exactly. Even less sleep, but deeper sleep, higher quality sleep. Because let's remember, like I can even just speak from experience. When I'm eating like crap, my sleep quality is terrible. Like if I'm eating like fast food, the sleep is like, you wake up, or just let's bring it back to alcohol and junk food. You wake up just as tired as you went to sleep. So there's this connection between lifestyle and how much sleep you need.
Right.
It's connected to your lifestyle. If for me, someone who loves powerlifting, okay, I'm going to need a little more sleep, dude. I'm over here throwing around plates.
Right. So
pay attention to what you're doing. And if you're just coffee, alcohol, just shitty lifestyle, like man, you're going to need loads of sleep.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, man. Great talk. I could sit here all day and just keep going, dude. It's awesome, man. Really, really great. But that's all I have. AJ, any final thoughts?
So the last few guests were all handpicked from my co-host, and I feel as though I don't even need to pick anyone anymore because he does such an amazing job. And I'm always like, oh man, like I'm like kind of exhausted. I don't know if I'm going to be there today type of thing. And then I come on and Everyday Detox or UGZ, it's such an honor and a pleasure. This was so refreshing. People are going to love this. I'm glad that I got to meet you and connect with you. And I'm looking forward to everything you have coming. I would love to have you on again at some point. I think we could just pick like one thing and go super deep with it, like prison.
Yeah.
Let's go deep.
That would be the funnest. That would be the funnest live prison for 1 hour. I would enjoy it too because
that'd be great.
There's so many funny stories, dude. Oh, yeah, there's so many. But yeah, man, appreciate you. Thank you guys for having me, man.
Yeah, of course, dude.
Just want to say my Instagram names. The first one is Based in the Plants, no spaces, just one word, Based in the Plants. And then the second one is Hidden Health Nootropics, one word.
Cool. And we'll post it down below for you guys so that you can find it easily. And when we share it on our stories, we'll make sure we tag you and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, awesome.
Love it. Where do you live actually?
I live in Sacramento, California.
Oh, okay. You're a bit far.
Yeah.
I was like, we need to meet up, do some breath work or something.
Sure, for sure. Where are you guys at? What state?
Well, we're on the East Coast. I'm in Tennessee.
I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, gotcha. I'm going to Philly in June.
Oh, nice, dude.
I was literally 7 minutes from Philly up until Saturday. Now I lived in Jersey. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice. All right. Well, yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Awesome. Good stuff. Well, hey, guys, stay up. Be great. Always keep it 100, baby.
Stay ambitious and stay hungry.
Peace.